surrounded by students who are intelligent, passionate, enthusiastic, dedicated, committed and socially aware, and who are committed to building a better society, a fairer society. And I found that, and everyone here is testament to that. The university may have money and lawyers, but we have much more than that. Our spirit will not be broken, and we will continue to fight this injunction. They cannot stifle us. Today we will make our voice heard. We will make it loud, and they will listen. Thank you. Thanks very much, Hattie. So next we have Dave McDade.
Hi everyone, I'm a bit of an amateur at speaking at rallies, so I have notes, I hope you don't mind. I've just got off the train from Liverpool as well, and I sprinted over. You've got a lovely campus here, it looks great. Shame about your university. Hello, I'm going to talk basically about three things here. I'm going to talk about the right to take political action, accountability within universities, and also democracy within our student unions. Protest is basically a stabilising force for us, and it scares institutions like the University of Birmingham, which is why they want to shut us down. The occupation here in Birmingham was a great example of the wave of political action taken across the country by students. And basically us showing that we will not stand for what the weak and illegitimate coalition government has paid for us. And we were not consulted about our future. Instead we were beaten and criminalised and kettled and fined and imprisoned. And if the University of Birmingham have their way, we'll also get court injunctions and student disciplinaries. So too, we've been thrown on a scrap heap like unwanted goods, and when we challenge this, our democratic rights are refused. But here we are defending those rights and condemning the actions of the police, of private security thugs, and now of universities too. Even the media have created this monolithic block of opposition against students, but the fact that there are so many of us here today proving that we're not just criminals, we're here defending our rights, is absolutely fantastic. And we will continue to support each other, and I will run and dash in the train anywhere I have to get from, and through just to say that. I just have something to say about the universities themselves. The fact that they are attacking our academic departments, they're attacking our staff, they're victimising students who are active, but at the same time we hear senior management bark on about the student experience and how important that is. Universities have replaced democracy and accountability with a marketable commodity. Instead of actually caring about students, they're racing to the top of the NSS, which is just insufferable. And if there's any third years here, please don't fill it in. Don't trivialise and marketise our education. As universities rot at the top, we have to defend the taxiness, and we'll do that by standing together as students and also with our staff, so that we can pose a serious threat to their intentions. I'm just going to talk very briefly about student unions. I'm the president of a student union in Liverpool, and that basically means nothing. It basically means I'm pushed around by senior management, and this is a fight that we can win together, and it's something that I've learned over the past few months. We want real, lively and accountable bodies of students, but instead from disciplinary hearings to intimidation tactics, the corruption of dysfunctional student unions are things that we must fight, but more importantly, that I really believe we can win. A defeat for us on this will, a defeat on this will see senior management take over, but we know that a win for us on this will mean that we will be able to claim back our campuses and open up the potential for fighting a democratic representative institution. I mean, we're here today proving that students will not accept this attack on our education, and that we will rally to resist their attempts to silence us and to restrict us. Birmingham University have tried to set a very dangerous precedence here, but this is a fight for us all. It's a fight on our ability to act politically, it's a fight on our accountability of our universities, and it's a fight on the democracy of our student unions, but this is a fight that we can all win together, so please defend the right to protest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, May. That was a great speech about defending the right to protest. Next we have Leander Jones. He's talking about democracy on campus.
Hello everybody. I hope you forgive me for getting a little bit lofty and philosophical, but I want to pose a question to us. What is democracy? Democracy emphasises the equal value of each human being. It is based upon the notion of the sovereignty of the people. that the people are the highest authority and that those who rule can only do so with the consent of the governed. We show our consent through our ability to dissent. If this is suppressed, then those in power have no way of validating that they are in fact ruling legitimately or consensually. Democracy depends upon each person having the equal right to hold their own beliefs and to challenge those of others. But this must exist, not only in theory but in practice as well. So some people in society have a greater ability to express their opinion than others, and for this opinion to be listened to. This varies along the structural lines of power in society. So the Vice-Chancellor has the institutional position and the resources to be heard via traditional means, the media, the government, advertising, etc. Other people do not have this opportunity, and upholding the equal right to freedom of speech means that people must have the opportunity to express themselves through other channels, one of which is protesting. But freedom of speech is only meaningful to the extent that we have the opportunity to be listened to. If you lock someone in a room, for example, or in a prison cell for that matter, and say that you have the right to speak freely, this is not the same thing as freedom of speech. When we are deprived of the avenues for free expression in a traditional manner, we are reduced to a lowly position and surrounded by mufflers. And we have to compensate by shouting as loudly as we can, metaphorically, sometimes literally. And unfortunately, I forgot what I was going to say. Right, I'm going to look at my notes, because that's how it goes. Yeah, so, yeah, but now, okay, got you. Now even that right is being taken away from us. We have the ability still to speak freely, but one of the platforms from which we do so is being taken from beneath our feet. We are now even further away from the ears of the powerful. It's debatable to what extent they listened to us before, but at least they could hear us. Now they are ridding themselves of even this irritation. This injunction and what it represents, however, is not just harmful to us as protesters. J.S. Mill argued that the suppression of genuine public debate and diversity of opinion in society is more harmful to the mainstream public than it is to the holders of dissenting ideas. Because this suppression means the inhibition of search for truth, of the ability to innovate our established practices, of human progress in general. When people are obliged to listen to both sides of an argument, there is at least the opportunity that they may gain a more sophisticated and holistic understanding of the subject. The general trajectory of human affairs towards progress has been driven by our ability to rectify our mistakes through our constant reinterpretation of our experience, something which relies upon open public discussion. And I forgot what I was going to say once again. Yeah, okay, here we are. More loftiness. So for these reasons, citizens in a democracy have not only a right, but a responsibility and a duty to participate in the political life of society, to learn about public affairs, to hold those representatives of theirs, their leaders, to account, to scrutinise everything they do, and to express their opinions freely. Democracy depends upon the widest access to uncensored opinions. And therefore, another fundamental right is the right to understand the world around us, to comprehend the opposing views that shape it. Therefore, education is a right. Participation requires knowledge. Education is something which is being undermined as we speak, and this is what the protests are about initially. So this injunction represents a suppression of the democratic challenge to what is already an assault on democracy. We who care about progress and about freedom must not let this go. Walk by silently. That's a very bad way of ending it. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, next up we have Mark Burfield of NUSNEC to come and talk to us about the right to protest and like everyone else is at the moment.
Yeah, hello. I wanted to extend my solidarity greetings to all students here at Birmingham on behalf of the NUS Executive as well as the Education Activist Network. And we believe that it is our fundamental right to defend that right to protest at a time when they're trying to implement 80% cuts to humanities and all social sciences, at a time when they're slashing and restructuring our universities in the interest of the rich, the powerful, and turning our universities into bastions for the few rather than the many. Because what we stand is education for the 99%. And what did we learn from the Occupy movement? That effectively, if the camps are clear, if the occupations are clear, if the demonstrations are clear, we will come back in many more numbers. And I think this is what the demonstration has shown here today. Because what we need to raise is the prospect of, if they ban occupation-style protests, next thing they will ban our lecturers from going onto picket lines. Next thing, they will ban us from holding protests. Next thing, they will not only extend this law to the University of Birmingham, but to entire city centres. And that is exactly what we saw in the case of the students who did the banner drop, Winnick Clegg, the liar, the thief, the thug who stole our education, who proposed free education, to the election, and absolutely smashed it. What he did and what the government is doing at this moment in time, absolutely is horrible and must be condemned, and ultimately defending the right to protest is part and parcel of that. And what we need to say today is that an injury to one is an injury to all. That whether your name is Ed Power, whether your name is Simon Furs, whether your name is any one of these people here in the crowd standing today who has gone into occupation, we are all occupied and we need to fight back.
Defend the right to protest, because I think that this attack and victimisation that we've seen on Ed, on Simon, and also the attempt to ban occupations at this university is part of a wider attack on our right to protest. It's something that we all, I'm sure, experienced during the mass student protests against the increase in tuition fees, where we were regularly horse charged and battened by the police. And what we've seen over the last few months is many students who are arrested on those protests are now being put up in court and sent down to prison for incredibly minor offences. People like James Heslin, who's a Kingston University student, who is now serving 12 months in prison for taking part in the occupation of Millbank. People like Zenon Mitchell, a Sussex University student, who is also now in prison for taking part in that mass education demonstration on the 10th of November. And really what I want to do is put a plea out for people to show solidarity and to support those students who have been criminalised for standing up for their right to protest. And in particular, I want everyone to read this leaflet that I've given out about Alfie Meadows. Because on the night of the fees vote, where the MPs were driving through £9,000 fees, people were being battered over their heads. People like Alfie Meadows, who was battered so hard with a police baton that he had to undergo emergency brain surgery and nearly died. That was the same night that Jodie McIntyre, people remember, was dragged from his wheelchair. It's the same night that hundreds of people were held for hours in a kettle on Westminster Bridge, such that a GP on site said she was amazed that people weren't crushed to death. Alfie Meadows has now been charged with violent disorder. He will go to court next month, and if found guilty, he could spend up to 5 years in prison. And I think that Mark is right, that we have to say an injury to one is an injury to all. And it should be the police that nearly killed Alfie Meadows that should be in the dock, that should be being questioned for the violence that they meted out to student protesters, and not Alfie Meadows. So I would really call for people to show their solidarity with Alfie, and we're asking for people to book coaches and come down to the court hearing to show their support for him on the 26th of March. I just want to say a couple of very other quick final things, because I think that really the reason why we're seeing such a violent response to protest is they're trying to intimidate us. We know this is only the beginning in terms of the cuts. The £9,000 is just the beginning in terms of what they're trying to do to our education system. And they know that in response to that, the best tactic that we can use as students is the occupation. We proved it during the assault on Gaza, and we came very close to beating them over the question of fees with our national way of occupation, and they know that we're going to have to do it again. And so I think it's really important that today people are coming out in defiance and exercising their right to protest, because I think that's the way that we challenge their attacks. And I have to say, when I was at university here, I was up on a disciplinary for organising occupation against library cuts, and we organised protests just like this, and we won it, and they had to back down. The second thing I want to say is that I think the reason why they're doing this is they're afraid of contagion. They know that last year when the students protested, that lots and lots of people who were facing cuts in disability, attacks on their wages, attacks on their pensions, cheered for the students. And they're afraid of contagion, they're afraid of that resistance spreading, and we're starting to see that resistance spreading. We saw it on the 30th of November with 2.5 million public sector workers coming out on strike, and we're going to see it again at the end of this month on the 28th of March, when almost 1 million public sector workers will be out on strike as well. So I think it's really brilliant to see people here today, but one of the best ways that we can defend our right to protest is by continuing to protest, but also by extending our solidarity with lecturers and all of the public sector workers who will be going out on strike on the 28th of March and coming out together and revolting against this government until we bring them down.
Hi guys, we're going to march now around the university. If you follow the right to protest banner, I ask that you be as loud as possible when you're marching to make sure that every single person coming to the University Open Day knows how rubbish this injunction is. So make sure you get some decent chants going. So defend the right to protest.